Structure Therapeutics soaring 50+%, gaining over $800 million in market cap after releasing better than expected trial results for its experimental oral weight loss drug. The phase 2 study finding a once daily pill helping people lose more than 6% of their body weight on average after 12 weeks, with side effects found to be generally tolerable, per a company release. For more, we are joined by Holz, healthcare sector strategist at Mizuho. Jared, great to have you with us. We've talked about Structure in the past many times, and we've said at that point that the data would have to be better in terms of the safety profile, that whatever it is, and the results, obviously, as a Lilly or Novo. But you're saying that does not have to be the case here, and that the more interesting case could potentially be using it as a maintenance solution after you've been on an injectable GLP-1.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yes, I think a maintenance setting for something like this, an oral GLP, makes a ton of sense. We have two massive companies that are dominating on the injectable side. It's probably going to be the case for a while. But a maintenance drug that you can take after you've taken one of these injectables for a couple years, you actually don't need to see the efficacy be that excellent. That's why when I saw the numbers this morning, 6% to 10% was kind of the median. Not that bad. If you're just trying to kind of maintain your weight, and the company mentioned several times today during their conference call that this was a very scalable drug from a manufacturing standpoint, I think the demand could be huge for this. Obviously, it depends on the competitive landscape. But that's what I thought first, and I've thought Structure as a maintenance drug for a while now.
So we're expecting like phase 3 data for the orals from a Novo, for instance, later this year. So once that is out, wouldn't those be the maintenance vehicle? I mean, you would think that they are thinking about this already. People don't want to inject forever. Right. And can't the maintenance be the pill that they will have? They
could be. I think one thing that we kind of don't know is the manufacturability, the scalability of something that Novo is working on, Eli Lilly as well, and how you titrate those drugs from a dosing standpoint. Structure's data looked pretty competitive to me. I thought the street was a little bit mixed at the beginning. Stock was actually down at times pre-market because of the safety events. But I think when they kind of ran through the titration and the dosing, it made people feel more comfortable. But we know the demand is going to be off the charts for this drug. So 3 oral players, even if Lilly and Novo are successful here, obviously the manufacturing is key. I think this could be a company that gets acquired by another large cap pharma, maybe not in the obesity space yet, just given the fact that the market we know is huge and this price tag is not going to be.
Well, that's exactly right, Jared. I mean, you're talking about a deal, maybe a $4 billion deal at max 5, which is a rounding error for a lot of these. I mean, GPCR was a $75 stock in November. Not that that matters, but the risk reward here still, despite today's move, still seems pretty favorable. More so now, maybe.
I agree. I think what we saw today is kind of validating. You can push back on some of the tolerability issues. I think they'll figure that out. And I think what they said to the entire, not only to the investment community today, but also to all the strategics out there that are looking at it, is that they can scale this quickly, and this can be a really big drug. If you're a Merck, if you're another large cap pharma player, $5 billion, to your point, not very material, they could all do it.
So what would you do if you were they? Do you go out and do a secondary or sell a strategic stake or something to take advantage of this news right now? Or do you enter talks? What would you do?
Well, they're raising money tonight. So they announced a $400 million offering subsequent to the close. That could be upsized. I think the demand for that is going to be pretty big. I think they could find a partner. I think they would be foolish not to sell the company. I mean, obviously, we see, the roadmap for most of these biotech companies are perpetual capital raises until, something else takes place in the market. But I think they should sell the company. If there's a buyer, I don't know why they would not. I mean, I think it takes a lot of money to kind of run these companies. We know the commercial organizations have to be big, plus the manufacturing. If there's a $5 billion plus deal on the table, I would take it. But they did raise money tonight, I think, just opportunistically.
Is there no one else who has a similar drug to GPCR? I mean, in terms of in development, I mean, like not as good, oral,
right.
Et cetera?
We don't know yet. There are small cap companies working on oral therapies. Corbus is one of them. Terns is another, TERN. We've talked about some of these companies before. They're all working on competitive offerings. We just don't know the data yet, so it's really tough to say.